Make no mistake about it. When the Nature Boy Ric Flair endorses your product with his presence, you automatically become big time. And Friday night, March 13th, the Nature Boy, woo, limousine ride, jet flying, kiss stealing, all rolled into one, rolls into St. Louis as part of the Ring of Honor. That makes you big time wrestling promotion.
The old school style.
This is OWW Radio, and with us now is former NWA, AWA, and ECW World Champion and the current WWC Universal Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Wrestling number 3, Steve Corino. Steve, how you doing?
Doing well. How about you guys?
Not bad. Listen, Steve, growing up, were you a big fan of wrestling?
I was a huge fan. When I was about 8 years old, it was right around 1981, my parents got a cable TV. And, the first thing I noticed besides, the Atlanta Braves and Chicago Cubs was, there was wrestling on. And, the second I saw it, the second I fell in love with it, and those were the days when you had, Georgia Championship Wrestling and, I lived in the Northeast, so it was WWF and stuff like that. But, once I saw Georgia Championship Wrestling, I was totally hooked.
I grew up in the Northeast too, Steve, and I grew up on WWF Wrestling. And you're right. Once we got Southwest and Georgia Championship Wrestling, it was on from there.
Yes, Southwest was absolutely amazing. Growing up, I was always a heel fan and stuff like that. So Tully Blanchard and Gino Hernandez was they were one of my favorite first tag teams and stuff like that. And when they did the breakup in Southwest, and I got to see that firsthand. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, that was good stuff.
So when did you decide to become involved with the wrestling business, Steve?
It was one of those things. Not that I fell into it. It was. I almost wanted to be told no. Back in late 1993, early 94, there wasn't a wrestling school on every corner like there is now. So, I found this wrestling school that was about an hour from my house, and all I wanted to be told is no. Told I was either too small or I didn't weigh enough, or I wasn't athletic enough and stuff like that. And I've just been getting lucky for the last 15 years, being able to do what I do as a living.
So who did you train with?
I trained with a guy named Mark Mesta, awesome guy. King Kalua, who was a Northeast indie legend and stuff like that. So those were my initial guys that I trained with. And I ended up training with Dory Funk Jr. and really learning from there. But Dory was always super cool to me. I always looked at him as my coach and stuff like that. Terry, on the other hand, I've had tons of battles with. So, and I remember the first time I ever got to wrestle Terry Funk was in a three-way. It was me, Dusty Rhodes, and Terry Funk, and I ended up having the flu the night before. So, here I was sick still that same day, and you got Terry Funk throwing these left hands that are hitting me in the temple, the eye, the nose, the mouth, the lung, right? And then I started hitting him hard back. And he starts yelling at me. He's like, "Kid, come on, what are you doing? Why are you hitting me so hard?" So the back of me, "Oh, my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, He goes, "What the hell, kid? I'm an old man out there, and you're throwing the haymakers." I'm like, "I'm sure, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." So I go into Dusty. I'm like, "I think Terry's mad at me." He's like, "Why?" He said I was hitting him too hard. He's like, "He hits harder than anybody." I go, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "Let me guess. Did he use the 'I'm old' line?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Don't listen to him." Yeah, so, Terry is, he's always so much fun to wrestle, but, you're going to get a beating when you wrestle him.
Hey, this is OWW Radio, and we're talking with old school legend Steve Corino. Hey, Steve, I know a while back you said your favorite match in ECW was your bull rope match with Dusty Rhodes. That had to be an awesome experience to go through with you and Dusty both in a hardcore setting. The blood's flying. You guys are just letting each other have it. How was that working with Dusty?
Oh, it was no pun intended, but it was a dream come true. I mean, I grew up watching Dusty and reading them in the Bill After magazines, and I would go to the Philadelphia Civic Center every month, and Dusty was one of my favorites. So when I got the chance to feud with him in ECW, it was every week was a learning process, and he wanted the feud designed like an old style feud, and we went with it, and it was my idea. Like, I was the one that went to Paul and said, how about a bull rope match? Would that be cool? And Paul's like, yeah, it's not too bad. And then, then the idea started working, and, when we finally did that bull rope match, it was, some of the most fun in my entire life. Here I am on pay-per-view, wrestling, one of my true idols, and, in his style match, in the year 2000. So, yeah, it was a huge thrill for me.
Yeah, you spent some time in Omega, the company Matt and Jeff put together. How long were you there?
I would say maybe a year. Yeah, I was living in the Carolinas at the time while I was working there. So, it was a really fun program because, Matt and Jeff and, like, if you look at the list of guys that ended up going somewhere else and somewhere bigger like a couple of years later, it was amazing. You had Shane Helms and Mike Maverick and Champagne and C.W. Anderson, Joey Matthews and Christian York and Matt, Jeff and Shannon and Jason. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was Matt had like this vision of what Omega was supposed to be like, and it was definitely around those times like the most fun indie show I worked.
Getting back to ECW, who first contacted you about coming on board in '98, and what were your initial thoughts?
It was weird because I never expected to go there. I always thought that was when growing up as a wrestling fan and developing the old school character like I did, I saw myself in places like Puerto Rico or even Japan and stuff like that, and then in like '97 I started really developing like the anti-hardcore gimmick because I was watching all these indie guys on, and they wanted to do hardcore for no reason, and they would say, oh, I saw this thing on ECW, and I'm like, wow, if this is getting, popular, I should be the anti-hero to all this. And it just happened that way where I guess it was like Bam Bam had left and the Triple Threat had broke up and, guys were going their separate way, and, Paul wanted to give a couple of indie guys a shot, and like the name Reckless Youth came up in his mind, Tom Carter, and then Nova pushed for me. So it was cool because we both got our, a tryout same way and stuff like that. And I ended up, getting the job when, I was the long shot compared to what Tom was being brought in for.
When I was doing some research on your career, the Dory Funk School, they kept referring to the Dory Funk method. How much did that play into the King of Old School gimmick?
You know what? It was the Dory Funk method. The best way to describe that is really knowing every millisecond of a match means something. There's no wasted motion. If you look at Dory's old matches and stuff like that, and to today's fan, they might be very slow, but the methodical part of it is what tells a story. And he always taught everybody, you have to tell a story in there, no matter if it's match one or the main event of WrestleMania or anything like that. It was making everything count. And, I always do that, even now it's like, why throw two bad punches if one good one's going to look fine, and it's making everything mean something. So, yeah, that's a lot of the Dory Funk method there.
Steve, your sister, Allison Danger, is in wrestling. Is your real name Corino, your last name, so she's Allison Corino?
Yeah.
Okay.
She wanted to wrestle under, a different name too, so that people wouldn't say, is that Steve Corino's sister or this or, she wanted to make it on her own. Up until, maybe 3 or 4 years ago is when we started telling people that, that's my sister and stuff like that.
I just read she recently got married and had a baby. Congrats to her.
Yes. Oh, yeah, this beautiful little girl.
She works for Shimmer. How is that for her? I mean, there's some awesome female competitors in Shimmer. One name that comes to mind right away is LaFista. I mean, that girl's over the top. How is she liking it there?
You know what? I know she loves Shimmer because it's a place where she can help with the creative. I think she helps Prazak with the creative side and of looking for new talent and stuff like that. And and I watched the DVDs that she brings back, and they're amazing. And I wish they would get bigger because fans on a bigger scale need to see that these women aren't just going out there and being trying to be runway models. These are like fighting women, and like you said, LaFisto and Sarah Del Rey is amazing, and of course Amazing Kong and Sarah Stock, and they got so many like good girls that it's it would change the normal fans' opinion on what women's pro wrestling is like in the States.
Absolutely. This is OWW Radio with Steve Corino, and we do feature Shimmer on Click Wrestle.